Jai Baba.
Ashok ji, over to you.
Avatar, Meher Baba ki Jai. Existence, love, sacrifice, renunciation, knowledge, control, and surrender. The seven realities. I give no importance to creed, dogma, caste, or the performance of religious ceremonies and rites, but to the understanding of the following. 1. The only real existence is that of the one and only God, who is a self in every finite self. 2. The only real love is the love for this infinity, God, which arouses an intense longing to see, know, and become one with its truth, God. 3. The only real sacrifice is that in which, in pursuit of this love, all things, body, mind, position, welfare, even life itself, are sacrificed. 4. The only real renunciation is that which abandons, even in the midst of worldly duties, all selfish thoughts and desires. 5. The only real knowledge is the knowledge that God is the inner dweller in good people and in so called bad, in saint and in so called sinner. This knowledge requires you to help all equally as circumstances demand, without expectation of reward. When compelled to take part in a dispute, to act without the slightest trace of enmity or hatred, to try to make others happy with brotherly or sisterly feeling for each one, and to harm no one in thought, word, and deed, not even those who harm you. 6. The only real control is the discipline of the senses to abstain from indulgence in low desires, which alone ensures absolute purity and character. 7. The only real surrender is that in which poise is undisturbed by any adverse circumstance, and the individual, amidst every kind of hardship, is resigned with perfect calm to the will of God. Given by Meher Baba in 1952, Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai.
Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. So, I got a chance this week to interact with Kama, and then he was telling me of the great time he had in Hamirpur. And you might have seen the photographs he shared. So, he went with a um, multinational group from various parts of the world. I think South America, US, UK, Israel, I think, if I'm not wrong. And then they had a great visit to Hamirpur. It's off season, or rather, it's not the annual Sahwas time, but they were well taken care of, as you saw in those pics. And it was very Baba-full. And I think it's high time I make this trip. I keep thinking and I keep missing. I mean, I've not made this trip yet. So, some food for thought for all of you as we
The-
first, yeah,
Yeah, let's plan this November during
that's
the Mela.
the Mela, right? No, but the
Yeah, yeah.
Mela becomes too busy, and I think it may
It's
be.
not as crowded actually.
Is it? He was saying that
It's crowded, but it is not anything which is unmanageable like Amar Tithi, It's not too much of it actually. So
so Kama has
this
done
time
two
it,
Melas.
yeah,
So Kama has
yeah,
done two Melas, and he's done this, and he
yeah,
felt that he made a greater connect with the place and the
yeah,
people
yeah, yeah. That's
when
there,
there were fewer
yes.
people. Yeah,
Correct, correct,
because
correct.
they also have time for you, and
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
and of course he had like 4 nights, I think 3 nights and 4 days, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
we may not have that much of a luxury, but at least a 3 day, 3 day trip
Yeah.
is a good
Hmm.
idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
something to think about. But then we have thought about many things which we need to execute. Anyway, Jai Baba,
It's a good
Nehaji, how are
idea.
you? Yeah, Ashok.
Jai Baba, Jai Baba. Yeah,
Jai
I
Baba.
missed this trip. I was also supposed to go there.
Oh, okay.
because many from Mehrabad, from UK. There were many people who planned this, but I just missed it. Baba, whenever Baba invites me.
Yes, yes,
Next
yes.
time, next time. There is always a next time. What can I
But you have
say?
been there, right?
No, never.
Oh, okay.
I
So
don't.
you,
Maybe in another year or so. Let's
sure,
see. Let's see when it happens.
sure,
It's
sure.
Baba's time actually.
Yeah,
It's all Baba who decides it.
indeed, indeed. Jai Baba. So we continue our journey of this beautiful book. We were reading page 38 on the physical book. So any volunteers to read? Ashok, you want to read first?
Yeah, I'll read first.
Yeah,
One
if you
second.
want to drop off, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then later on, I may have to.
Fair enough, no problem.
Okay.
Jai
Avatar,
Baba.
yeah, Meher Baba ki Jai. One of Baba's women disciples who had the privilege of knowing Babajan well related to me that her presence was magnetic, that no passerby could resist turning his head for a second glance. She was short in stature, firm and agile in her gait. Her skin was fair and sunburnt, her face broad with high cheekbones, and a wealth of thick white hair hung loosely to her shoulders. Her voice was deep and sonorous, her eyes fathomless pools of liquid blue light. After a number of years of roaming about the city of Pune, to all appearances as a mendant sitting or resting wherever her fancy led her, she took up her seat as the permanent abode of a saint or master is, is termed. Underneath the lime tree, where many years later Baba was destined to meet her. At that time, this particular spot was an eyesore of dirt, desolation, and ugliness, a breeding place of plague and pestilence, and the favorite haunt of the city's riffraff. Here, Babajan improvised an apology of a shelter with some sticks and gunny sacks, and here, through the driving rains of the monsoons and scorching heat of Indian summer, Babajan remained. Within 10 years, her seat became a focal point of pilgrimage for thousands of spiritual aspirants. The neighboring section changed from a slum of squalor and filth to a bazaar of spiritual wealth and beauty. New buildings sprang into being, old ones were regenerated. Tea shops echoed to the hospital clatter of cups and saucers and to the chatter of throngs waiting to pay their respects to Babajan. In the street, in the streets, singers entertained the crowd with their spiritual music. Gay, laughing, and eager people of all ranks and creeds stood by the hundreds, patiently waiting for the long anticipated moment when they could take the dust of Babajan's feet. And because this was India, where the shadow side of life could never be completely disregarded or suppressed, the ubiquitous beggar slunk his way through the crowd, winning his pitiful plea for alms. Near Babajan herself, clouds of sweet-smelling incense rose, mingled with the outpouring of devotion from the hearts of the pilgrims, a scene to be found only in the Orient, and one which left an indelible impression on the mind and heart of the beholder. To the town authorities, these daily demonstrations placed, presented a serious problem. Traffic was being held up, congestion spread for miles around. They would have liked to move Babajan's seat to a more outlying, less congested district, but they knew she would never consent to that. However, something had to be done. Their local pride was at stake. Such a celebrity as she had now become should have a more suitable place to live in. It was unseemly that she should be living beneath a gunny sack roof under a tree. So the township built her a decent abode only a few feet from her chosen spot. She did not remonstrate, but when the building was finished and they invited her with suitable ceremony to move in, she refused point blank. The authorities were flabbergasted, but ultimately the difficulty was resolved by building an extension which connected the new structure with Babaja's old seat under the lime tree. Like other perfect masters, she slept very little, and even the little was merely withdrawal to the plane of super consciousness. Unconscious sleep plays no part in the life of a master. She ate little and irregularly, with frequent servings of strong black Indian tea, a regime calculated to shatter even a robust constitution. But for Babajan, the perfect master, it was apparently the perfect diet. She lived in the ripe age of over 120. She used to refer to the act of eating as patchwork in the body. I'm inclined to stop here.
Yeah.
Any
No,
any
by the
comment?
way, I wanted to check. Maybe you have a slight
What was
cold
that
or
word?
something.
La-
Oh, okay,
last
I think
line.
it might be uh, it,
Patchwork to the body. Okay.
it
Patchwork.
might be
Patchwork.
work. Would somebody else? It might be network also.
No, no, no.
It,
It's not network. I just felt that you had a slight discomfort in your voice. If it is so, happy to rotate, or I can take
uh,
over.
no,
Otherwise, you can continue.
I'll just finish this page and then we can take over.
Yeah, yeah, sure. If you're comfortable, keep going. No problem.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I want everybody should get their Uh, I mean, by rotation, but everybody should be able to contribute and read. If
Sure. Jai
yeah,
Baba.
hey Baba.
If anybody.
Yeah. If anybody addressed her as mother, hi, her eyes would flash and she would exclaim, "I'm a man, not a woman." Indication that her consciousness was not conditioned by her physical form and confirming a saying of Prophet Muhammad that lovers of God are males, lovers of paradise are eunuchs, lovers of the world are females. Many miracles are attributed to Baba Jan, among them the merciful act of healing. Her method in this was unique. She would place her hand over the diseased part or hold it between her fingers and calling upon some celestial being, order the troublesome entity to depart as she jerked or moved the affected area. This technique would bring instantaneous relief, and the erstwhile sufferer would depart smiling and happy. Hundreds of incidents are related about Baba Jan, illustrating how her great love and compassion for sinful man always came to the love, always came to the fore. Sorry, whenever human derelicts came by her way. Characteristic of this is the occasion when a man who tried to steal a costly shawl, a gift from a devotee, which covered the sleeping Baba Jan. One end of the shawl happened to be caught under her body, which caused the thief considerable trouble in removing it. Since he tried not to, since he tried not to awaken her, but Babajan herself a little without, but Babajan raised herself a little without opening her eyes to help the man achieve this purpose. At another time, a wealthy devotee had placed upon Baba Jan's wrist two bangles of solid gold. Watching this opportunity, a thief snatched from her wrist so roughly that they cruelly lacerated her flesh. Too late did her followers realize what had happened. They were infuriated and set up a great hue and cry to prevent the thief's escape. But the local police brought the culprit before Babajan. To everyone's consternation, she ignored the thief and called upon the police to arrest his accusers. There are but a few of many incidents which highlight for us the character of the unsurpassed God woman who, upon seeing the boy, Merwan, recognized him instantly as her long awaited spiritual son. After placing the kiss of divine enlightenment upon Merwan's forehead, she told her disciples that this was a soul who would startle the world with his God power and love. She had known from the time of her inner illumination that it was her destiny to awaken Merwan to his great mission. Even the eternal avatar must each time be reawakened to his divine role. On September 21st, 1931, the time of Baba's first visit to the West, her work completed, she gave up her earthly body. We of the West are so far removed from esoteric phenomena that we find it difficult to grasp such singular proceedings, let alone accept them as facts. The Eastern scriptures, however, are lucid on the subject. They recount many instances of perfect masters conferring instantaneous spiritual grace at will upon anyone of their appointed choice by means of sight, touch, or speech. All such moments, all of masters' choice by means of sight, touch, or speech. At such moments, all of masters completely realize God power is focused with needle point sharpness upon the consciousness of the predestined disciple, who in a flash becomes aware of his own godhood. Preface to Dawn. Though Eastern lore is replete with records of similar instantaneous liberation, accounts of such grace falling upon one who had not consciously been asking God are rare. Generally, it comes to one after long years of earnest striving and complete renunciation of worldly values. But to Merwan, it seemed to have come as a free gift from heaven, unexpectedly and not consciously sought. He had been seeking anything outside the boundaries of his mundane activities. He loved the poetry and literature of the West as well as the East, read avidly of both. He excelled in his studies and at sports, was a leader in his group, well liked by his friends and teachers, in spite of an inherent, I think, mischievousness. He seemed, in all respects, a normal, healthy, happy boy, loving the beautiful, despising the mean and petty. His
Can I
father, sorry,
No, no. Can I pause you here
yes,
before we continue? This gets into Baba's young days. So, any thoughts on Baba Jan before we go there? Right. So, Baba Jan's. I think most of what we have read about Baba Jan here, we might have heard elsewhere or heard about it. But yeah, I just wanted to pause and talk
yeah,
about that, then continue.
I just want to add that it is, Babajan's own way of, asking the police to arrest the accusers and not the thief. And she was away from all material, whether it is gold or shawl. So it shows that, absolute renunciation from material things is one. And I think in the next paragraph, we'll have the birthday of beloved Baba. And it's appropriate that today is just one day before his birthday.
True, true.
All right. Jai Baba. There's one entire discourses Baba has, uh, sorry, in Creation and Causes, there is one chapter on Baba Jan, which is really beautiful. So, if possible for anyone, just go and read this today. And Pune Center also has a booklet They
Okay.
have published the booklet long back in Baba's time. And it has an authentic knowledge about or information about Baba Jan. So, what information that we have, because it's all given by Baba, so it's really beautiful. That book is really beautiful. So that has lots of incidences and how she lived in Pune and the other surrounding area with other masters, how our association with them. So it's a nice booklet to read. Must be of 40-50 pages, by Gani. I think by it is by Gani, but all the points were given by information given by Baba.
Nehaji,
Great.
can you share the title of that booklet?
Yeah, I,
I'll just show you.
yeah,
Oh,
I have it. Yeah, I also have it. Yeah. Yeah. It's in a light blue color.
I will just give it a minute to see the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Hazrat Baba Jan.
Yeah.
Yeah, the name of the book is Hazrat Baba Jan. This is the booklet. Can you see?
Yes.
yes.
Little
Let's see. And I
little to
think
the
I'm
back.
checking this.
Yes. Yes, it's beautiful.
Thanks.
It's really beautiful. Must to have book.
Thank you.
Okay. We can also rotate reading maybe, or you can continue for some more time. I'll take over then.
I'll just finish this page. I'll just finish this page.
Sure, please.
His father, a Parsi of Zoroastrian faith, had been an ardent seeker after God ever since his young manhood. He had, in fact, decided to dedicate his life to that search and become what in India is known as a sannyasin, a spiritual wayfarer, when an inner voice commanded him to give up his asceticism, marry, and bring children into the world. One of his children, the voice declared, would bear the fruit of the father's striving and would become known as a great spiritual leader of men. The father obeyed the inner command and shortly thereafter married a fellow Parsi woman whose forebears had likewise migrated from Persia and settled near Bombay. 5 children were the offspring of this union, of whom Meherwan was the second, born on February 25th, 1894. One circumstance of his childhood may have contributed somewhat to the reflective side of Meherwan's nature. Though it is my understanding that spiritual liberation, such as Meherwan experienced, is not conditioned by, not dependent upon environment or physical heredity. Spiritual readiness, in the sense of soul maturity, is the determining factor. Meherwan lived near the community Tower of Silence, where those of the Zoroastrian faith take their dead and leave them to be consumed by the vultures which throng about the tower in black clouds of waiting eagerness. Often the child, Meherwan, chose to visit this eerie place, sometimes sitting alone for hours with only vultures and dry bones for companion. Perhaps here began his first intimations of his immortal role which transcends life and death. Any case, it would seem to indicate a nature instinctively reflective, introverted. But for this factor in his childhood, Meherwan's environment was similar to that of thousands of other Parsi children born of refined, devout Zoroastrian parents. Avatar, he
Yeah, no
completed
problem.
he completed his preparatory school grades at St. Vincent's School with high credit, and at the age of 17 entered Deccan College, at that time the finest educational institution in the Deccan, a province of Western India. Karthik, I think
Yeah,
this point I'll
yeah,
stop.
please. So I'll continue. Tar Meher Baba ki jai. Mirwan's main interest was in literature, and he read eagerly Shakespeare, Wordsworth, Shelley, as well as many other English, Indian, and Persian poets. Of Hafiz, one of the great Persian poets, he was especially fond. He felt enraptured by his deep mysticism, although at that time he had no mystical experience himself. Under the inspiration of this poet, Mirwan wrote many poems in various Indian dialects and in Persian, which were published under the nom de plume of Homa in Sanj Vartman maybe, one of the most popular vernacular newspapers of Bombay. He also wrote poems in English. He loved music and had a beautiful singing voice. In contrast to
Sorry,
the,
sorry, Karthik.
yeah,
It's Huma everywhere.
yeah, that's what I thought.
Huma. Yes, it's
That's what I
everywhere.
thought.
It's Huma. Yes, I think
Yeah,
I'm surprised to see this.
yeah, it's a maybe it's the error on part of the author. Yeah. So, and is that newspaper still around? Sanj Vartman, the evening newspaper?
No, no idea.
Yeah, I'll continue. He also wrote poems in English. He loved music and had a beautiful singing voice. In contrast to this more aesthetic side of his nature was his keen interest in mystery stories. And at the age of 15, he wrote a story for his favorite thriller, The Union Jack, which was accepted and printed. In preparatory school and college, Mirwan was regarded as a natural leader. In quarrels, he was called upon to be arbiter, and the boys came to him for advice on all subjects. At Deccan College, he formed an organization called the Cosmopolitan Club. Anybody, regardless of caste or community, could become a member. Its rules included the prohibition of gambling, coarse language, and quarreling. God awakening. Mirwan was in his second year of college when this great inner transformation took place. After his initial meeting with Babajan, Mirwan continued to attend his college classes, but each evening on his way home, he would stop for a short visit with the venerable saint, who at that time was reputed to be well over 100 years old. Age had left its deep imprint in furrows upon her face, but her faculties had become intensified with age. Her sight and hearing were perfect, and she walked as sprightly as a young girl. When I was in India, I was told by many people who had known her that the love which emanated from her was so great that people could hardly bear to leave her presence. One evening in January 1914, Babajan was in a talkative mood and Mirwan stayed with her longer than usual. He kissed her hands and stood humbly before her. Her deep eyes were intent upon him. She pointed her finger at him and declared, "This child of mine will create a great sensation in the world and do immense good to humanity." Merwan continued to stand reverently before her for a few more moments, then reluctantly made his way home. It was nearly midnight. He went immediately to bed. Within a few minutes, he began to experience extraordinary thrills throughout his body, as though he were receiving high-powered electric shocks. He felt somewhat alarmed as the indescribable joy mingled with pain became more intense. After a few hours of this ecstasy, he passed beyond all mundane consciousness. The first person to discover Merwan in this condition was his mother, who found him the next morning lying on his bed with wide open, vacant eyes. Thinking he was seriously ill, she made him lie down again. For 3 days, he remained in this condition. Though his eyes were open, he saw nothing. On the fourth day, he began to move about a little, being now dimly conscious of his body. In this semi trance like condition, he remained for some 9 months. He had no knowledge of his actions and what.
Kartik,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. This was all after she kissed on Baba's forehead,
Yes. So I
isn't
think
it?
I was also looking
Yeah.
at that. That's
Hmm.
so that seems to have been missed here.
Ha.
Uh so all that happens here is he kissed her hands and stood humbly before
No, no. That he
and
used to do. That he used to do. Baba used to do. Meher Baba used to do that. But in this, we all know what had
correct.
happened. So
And
maybe
in fact,
they missed out
yeah,
that paragraph or something.
yeah, or maybe, yeah, the author missed it out when she first wrote it. But it's very, very clear. And I was also
Hmm.
going to point that out when the section ends, that
Yeah.
the
Ha, ha.
kiss and at the forehead, these are things that are recorded,
Yes. Yes.
which
Yes.
uh, which is important as well, because historically, that's the point
Ha,
where Upasni
ha.
Maharaj throws the
And the
stone.
same night is started. Everything is started. That Baba saw Baba Jan sitting next to him. On his
Okay.
bed.
Karthik,
That was the sequence where she was sitting next to Baba on his bed,
Mhm.
and she took him to the God consciousness and showed her real avatar, real roop.
State of God. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. So that all started after that. I think they missed the paragraph or something.
Possible.
no,
Yes,
Karthik,
Shuk.
if I may, I think if you go ahead, there is a mention about Babajan kissing uh, him on his forehead. The one which I read.
Oh,
There
must
is
be later, isn't?
No,
before.
he remembers reading it. So,
Oh, okay. Really?
um, yeah, I think we missed it then.
One,
In the Babajan part, is it?
yes, the Babajan part. But in any case, it's mentioned in some other text as well. But if you just come up a little bit, I remember reading. Yes,
Yeah,
kissed
yeah,
his.
yeah. There it is.
Maybe the
So,
sequence is different, but
Yeah.
it should not be. S- Uh,
Can I read this again, or can read it again if you want?
no, no. So, which page is this?
Yeah, as lad of 18,
No, no, I understand. So, this is happening on page. Okay.
35.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We started in page 38, is it?
No, much before that. You put stopped 17.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, so we didn't read this today, Chief.
Oh, I remember reading that.
Good. I like your memory, but this happened on 17th,
Oh, I'm
right?
sorry. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but
see, this happened on 17th. But good, good that you remember that. But so it's just that it's not a sequence problem, it's a detail problem. So she has covered it in the God woman section, but when she actually gives the account of the incident which starts the whole process, that's not appearing. Either, as Nehaji said, it could be a missing paragraph, or it could be a real error.
oversight. Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
You want to read that again? Oh, I don't know.
no, that's okay. I already moved back from there.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, so let's go back to the God awakening state. Yeah, this is where we were. I'll read this paragraph again, where the mother discovers Baba in this condition. The first person to discover Merwan in this condition was his mother, who found him the next morning lying on his bed with wide open, vacant eyes, thinking he
please,
was
please
singing.
read the entire paragraph.
I am reading
So it's
from
a
the beginning.
beautiful paragraph. Yeah, I just
Yeah,
interrupted
yeah,
in between.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's what I'm reading from the beginning. Yes. The first person to discover Merwan in this condition was his mother, who found
No, no,
him the next.
before that. Sorry,
Oh, okay.
Karthik. Yes,
You mean from here, one evening?
yes, from the experience.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that. One evening in January 1914, Babajan was in a talkative mood and Mirwan stayed with her longer than usual. He kissed her hands and stood humbly before her. Her deep eyes were intent upon him. She pointed her finger at him and declared, "This child of mine will create a great sensation in the world and do immense good to humanity." Mirwan continued to stand reverently before her for a few moments, then reluctantly made his way home. It was nearly midnight. He went immediately to bed. Within a few minutes, he began to experience extraordinary thrills throughout his body, as though he were receiving high powered electric shocks. He felt somewhat alarmed as the indescribable joy, mingled with pain, became more intense. After a few hours of this ecstasy, he passed beyond all mundane consciousness. The first person to discover Mervan in this condition was his mother, who found him the next morning lying on his bed with wide open, vacant eyes. Thinking he was seriously ill, she made him lie down again. For 3 days, he remained in this condition. Though his eyes were open, he saw nothing. On the fourth day, he began to move about a little, being now dimly conscious of his body. In this semi trance like condition, he remained for some 9 months. He had no knowledge of his actions, and what he did was in response to no prompting of his conscious mind. He was wholly unconscious of the physical world. He neither ate food nor drank liquid. Any action initiated, he would continue for hours at a time. Once during this period, he went to Kondwa and lay behind the Parsi Tower of Silence for 3 days. He did not sleep, and the food which was given to him he gave to the dogs or put in his pockets, intending to give it to beggars. I think maybe the Tower of Silence is now moved out, right? As the case is in many places, right? So as the city grows, they move it out outside the city, right? So maybe that's what's happened. Kondwa is now a heart of Pune, right?
Yes, Kondwa is a part of very much an integral part of Pune. I don't know about this Tower of Silence. We got to check it out.
Yeah, yeah, sure. His parents were desperate. They naturally thought his mind was impaired, and in their efforts to restore their beloved son to normality, they subjected him to every conceivable kind of medical treatment. But none was of any avail, nor was he aware of any of it. He was oblivious of the doctors, and not even the hypodermic needles made him aware of them or caused any sensations to register in his brain. 10 months later, in 1914 November, he regained slight physical consciousness and behaved, as he afterwards said, like an automaton possessing intuition. His eyes ceased to be vacant. Life returned to them, and he began again to take food regularly, although in very small quantities. A month after this partial return of physical awareness, a friend bought a poor young woman named Behramji Irani to see Merwan. The newcomer became instantly devoted to Merwan and later was one of his closest disciples. Merwan offered to teach him Persian. His parents were delighted, as this was the first concrete evidence of more normal functioning. To accelerate the process, they got additional pupils for him to teach, but he declined to accept them. He continued, however, to teach Behramji, and with very marked results, though Merwan at that time had little more than a fraction of his normal consciousness. He thought instinctively, not intellectually. Balanced consciousness. With this slight return of physical consciousness, Merwan became increasingly aware of the need to find someone who would help him regain perfect equilibrium. He knew intuitively that it was not the function of Baba Jan, his liberator from world illusion, to affect his balance on the physical plane. For this, he knew that he must find another master. The spiritual hierarchy, known as perfect masters, are a completely integrated group functioning as one in God consciousness and known to each other inwardly, each having a distinct and unique role to perform. They never overlap each other's sphere of action. Though endowed with infinite wisdom and knowledge, and therefore able to perform any work they might choose, their earthly mission is divided into highly specialized activities. It is characteristic of perfect masters that in everything they do, they manifest the utmost economy of effort. The master destined to complete the process of perfect functioning for Merwan proved to be Upasani Maharaj. His first meeting with Upasani illustrates the singular ways of such masters. On the surface, many of their actions seem strangely incongruous, even grotesque. Yet, upon closer analysis, the underlying meaning becomes apparent. As Merwan approached Upasani Maharaj on his first visit to him, the master picked up a pebble and hurled it at Merwan. This was for the purpose of awakening him again to the physical world. The stone grazed Merwan's forehead, on the same spot where Baba Jan had kissed him, and Baba relates that from that moment his equilibrium began to return, bringing him down gradually from the supranormal level on which he had been solely functioning since Baba Jan's initiation to balanced consciousness on the earth plane. The kiss of Baba Jan might very well have been the symbolic breath of God that lifted Merwan into God realization. The stone of Upasani Maharaj, the symbolic fragment of earth that brought him down to the sphere where he was to function among the children of the earth. In the beginning of his contact with Upasani, Merwan used to visit him for only a day or two at a time, spending the intervals with his family. Not yet privileged to comprehend the great spiritual transformation which was taking place within their son's consciousness, they still regarded him as mentally deranged. He would sit for hours at the Tower of Silence, accentuating the fact of physical consciousness by knocking his forehead against the stones. Then he would wrap his head in a scarf or turban to hide the bruises from his family. Baba later told his group that the physical pain provoked by knocking his head against the stones relieved somewhat the spiritual agony in which he was then immersed. As Merwan's consciousness became more balanced, his mother's anxiety to see her son re-established in an atmosphere of normal living became more pronounced. She pleaded with him to adopt some kind of profession or trade, and to please her and to ease her concern, he tried his hand at various occupations. It was during this period that he became manager of a theatrical company for a short time. How Merwan reacted to these excursions into worldly life is summarized in a letter to a friend in which he expressed his distaste for a life that compelled him to eat uncongenial food and required him to wear confining clothes, both of which he heartily disliked. When the owner of the theatrical troupe died, Merwan was glad to return to Pune. Here he was put in charge of his father's tea shop. But the boy whose forehead had been touched by two perfect masters was not destined to distinguish himself as a manager of a tea shop. His mind was too greatly absorbed in lofty subjects to pay attention to crafty customers who took delight in cheating him. The tea shop served one useful purpose, however, and perhaps that was its function. Through it, he began gathering about him a small circle of friends who, in spite of his eccentricities, felt deeply drawn to him. As a gathering place for this little group, Merwan rented a small room near the shop, which he decorated with pictures of Babajan and Upasni Maharaj, and of other saints and masters. Here, the circle performed spiritual ceremonies every evening, and twice a week at 4 o'clock in the morning, the hour when Baba became God realized, and when he has told his disciples, they also will become God conscious. While in charge of the tea shop, part of Merwan's work required him to wash bottles, dishes, and to sweep and wash the floor. Curiously enough, this aspect of the work did not disturb him. On the contrary, he seemed to take delight in doing the most menial tasks. In later years, this same proclivity was evidenced when, during the first ashram days, he helped with the household work, and later at his school for young boys when he cleansed their latrines. Another poignant example of the urge Merwan apparently felt to experience symbolically the lowest level of life, even as he had experienced in reality the highest, is recounted by Behramji, who tells of the incident when Merwan obtained from a sweeper a bucket of refuse, which he took to an attic. There he stayed for 36 hours. When he emerged, he was covered with filth from head to foot and completely exhausted. His devoted friend took upon himself the task of cleansing Merwan of the refuse. In July 1921, Merwan moved to Sakori, the headquarters of the master Upasani. Here he spent many hours daily in silence. Only now and then would he break the silence with a song. At the end of December, Merwan was restored to fully balanced consciousness. Signaling this important event, Maharaj said to his disciples, I have given my key to Merwan. He is now the repository of my power. And later, again in the presence of his disciples and devotees, Merwan is the leading Sadguru of this age. He will move the world and all humanity will be benefited by his work. Merwan is a perfect master, he told Baba's friend Behramji. You must carry out his every command. Thus, Merwan became a Sadguru at the age of 28. He was henceforth called Meher Baba, which means father of compassion. When Baba left Sakori early in the year 1922, Upasni Maharaj turned over to him a few of his own followers whom he had been nurturing until Baba. Their destined master should be ready to receive them. Again, Upasni admonished them to obey always the word of Baba, who now had the power to help them become God realized, even as he was. Baba has told us that in attaining perfect control over his physical body, his superconscious state of God realization in no wise abated. Through the ministry of Babajan, he had been awakened to the realization of his godhood. You want to say something, Mamaji?
Huh. I
Yeah.
think this section, early section of Lord Meher, is also a good reference to go through the events as described from Babajan to Merwan and cycle unto his God realization.
Very true. Yeah. And greater
Yes,
detail
yes.
and greater sequencing, I'm sure.
That's the correct sequencing actually
Yeah.
in Lord Mayor.
Got it. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We can also rotate reading if anybody is in a position to read, Sanjay ji or Mama ji, whoever wants. Neha ji, you are welcome to read as well.
No, I am in company with another young soul with me during the.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Let me read, Karthik. Yeah.
yeah, sure. Please,
So I
Jai Baba.
start from Baba has told us.
Yeah, please let's reread that. Yes.
Baba has told us that in attaining perfect control over his physical body, his superconscious state of God realization in no wise abated. Okay. Through the ministry of Baba Jan, he had been awakened to the realization of his godhood. In this exalted state, he became aware of his destiny in this life as well as in former incarnations to serve as the divine leader who brings about the quickening of mass consciousness, which is humanity's greatest recurrent need. Babajan released in him the wellspring of his divinity. But in order that he might use this transcendent knowledge for the benefit of humanity, his consciousness must be balanced again on the physical plane without loss of God consciousness. Accordingly, was the second master Upasni Maharaj destined to enter Baba's life, and to be the intermediary in rendering him his service. Succinctly, Baba sums it up. Baba Jan gave me God, Upasni Maharaj knowledge. Thus, in him were fused the spiritual strains of two great religions, the Mohammedan through Babajan, the Hindu through Upasni, as were also the mother and father aspects of God. Oh, this is beautiful actually. Never heard this. One thing is religion and the mother and father aspect of the God came through Baba Jan and Upasni Maharaj. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Never read this before, yeah. Moreover, through his physical birth, he had inherited the great tradition of Zoroaster, while his Christian schooling had explained him, acquainted him with the teaching and precepts of Jesus, a universal inheritance bestowed for vast universal work. Significance of Godhood. Since the story concerns one whose state of consciousness is that of the incarnate God, and since few of us in the West know much about this supreme achievement, it seems appropriate to include in this biography Baba's own teaching on the subject. He tells us that though the realization of God is the supreme goal of man, few in any age achieve it. Of those who do, the Sadguru or perfect master stands at the pinnacle. He is the one who has passed through the six planes of illusory consciousness, all of which involve a sense of separation from Godhood, from God, and has entered the seventh plane where final and permanent union with God is realized. He has, moreover, balanced this supreme soul condition with his physical plane consciousness. This ultimate goal of spiritual journey union with God is achieved also by two other classes of God realized souls, muktas and mazhubs. They do not, however, possess the mastery over the physical body which the perfect master enjoys. The muktas give up the gross body at the moment of liberation and leave the earth plane. The mazhubs retain the human form and continue functioning on this plane, but without regaining consciousness of the body. Only a few, the perfect masters, regain physical awareness without yielding their uninterrupted consciousness of being God. The perfect master returns to the valley of earth from the mountain top of God. Having realized his divinity, he descends to the level of mortal man to help all those who are spiritually ripe to make the great ascent. There are 56 such perfect masters incarnate in all times. In our age, they live in the Orient, whose spiritually conditioned atmosphere is more suitable for their esoteric work. Though one in consciousness, they differ in function. Of these 56, only 5 attain public recognition. Uh, this is, I think we should discuss it separately. 56 God realized
Correct.
people
I,
at
I
one.
paused you.
Yeah,
I paused
yes.
you and wanted
Yeah,
to tell the same. It is
yes.
56 God realized souls, but only 5 perfect masters. Whereas
Yeah.
here she says 5 attain public recognition. I think we'll have to
And
be
she calls
cognizant.
56 as perfect masters.
Perfect masters.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll go what the discourses says. Yeah.
Exactly.
What they say.
I just want
It
to
is.
add.
There were many perfect masters at that time, and only these 5 were Baba. Their job or their description or what you call it, a portfolio was different. But there were many perfect master was around at that time. You know.
So this
So
is not
she was saying
time
is
dependent, Nehaji.
it can't
This is
deny
not time
totally.
dependent. Yeah, this is not time
Yeah.
dependent. Then and now, 56 God realized souls are there. That's what Baba has said. And 5
Yes.
perfect masters are there. That also Baba has said. But here she
Yes.
is saying 56
Yes.
God perfect masters and 5 known publicly. So that this
So
difference
this
we
is
need to
also
just
correct.
understand.
Don't deny it
Yeah,
totally.
this we
That is
need to
what I'm
connect.
saying.
Yeah, yeah. That we need to connect. Yeah.
Just for the record, there is cross reference of this in God Speaks.
Of course. Yes, yes. And also in discourses, in fact, we will be coming up with the chapter on avatars and perfect masters, where we'll see the definition of this. And yes, I agree with Sanjay ji. It's that 5 and 56 is the God realized number at any given time. And these 5, see, in India, as somebody put it on a Baba call recently, it's very easy to get the title Sadguru or Avatar even, right? So it's even Swamiji, Baba is very common to get that title because we are a society that believes in a spiritual supremacy or spiritual respect accorded to someone who has pursued or someone who has certain skills and knowledge, even if not miraculous powers, right? Now, Baba is probably the one that has defined these things to the greatest detail, right? So if you go to God Speaks and the supplements, and that corroborates also with what William Donkin says in Wayfarers, the hierarchy of souls and the spiritual hierarchy at any given time. One is journey of an individual soul. The second is how the world is made up, right? How the classes of souls that exist all in creation, that also is recorded in great detail, and that is definitive and not indicative. And in that definitive way, Baba has clearly said it is 5 perfect masters and 56 God realized souls at any given time. And of course, many more details are provided. Even the word uses here, she says mukta, but probably she refers to Jivan Muktas who leave their physical body upon God realization. The rest is correct. Majzubs don't have consciousness of the body. Yeah, so I think we just have to. I mean, it's also uh, many benefits of timing are given to Jean. She wrote this very early, and maybe yeah, we will not get into a critical analysis of the book, but just appreciate the value and timing and enjoy what she's saying. Yeah, the next line
Yeah.
is in the next page. It
The,
starts with the
the remainder are unknown to the world. They live either as ascetics in secluded mountain caves and forests, or as normal men doing their inner work secretly, unsuspected even by their closest associates. The five who serve as a sovereign council determine the course of which man's destiny on earth shall take. Only those decisions which are unanimous are released for action and assigned for execution. The governing head of this august body is known as the emperor. Okay. In our case, it was Sai Baba, right?
before
Yeah.
Baba, yes, Sai Baba, and again, these are loosely correct.
Yeah.
So there are five perfect masters, and the one of them always takes the office of
Yes.
Irshad, right?
Yes. Yes.
But when
Yeah.
the avatar is in physical form, he is automatically the head of the spiritual hierarchy.
Yeah. At rare intervals in times of acute world crises, mankind passes through avataric cycles. Such was the time of Jesus, of Buddha, and many believe that humanity has now entered another. In avataric period, the supreme master of the council becomes known to the world as the savior or avatar. Yeah. Except for this highest function, the ranks of perfect mastership are open to women as well as men. The avatar incarnates always in a male body. He is the ancient one who was the first human to become fully conscious of his godhood. In the intervals between avataric periods, the one avatar continues unbroken his succession, but the positions he assumes on earth are of less universal spiritual significance. Though always his role is one of the beneficial help to struggling humanity. There are times when world conditions demand it that he occupies many bodies during one and the same period. As genius of the art, he quickens man's higher sense. As a master of poetry, he unfolds for man another petal of the cosmic rose. As of inspired scientist, he reveals to humanity the hidden secrets of nature. As a great leader of church or state, he lifts mankind to a broader concept of life. Or as a nameless wanderer over man's earth, he cheers the disheartened and eases man's burdens. No generation is without his physical manifestation in one form or another, though often his true identity remains hidden, his presence upon earth unknown to mankind.
Before we continue again, there's one sentence here which is a little ambiguous. The first one. In the
Yeah.
intervals between avataric periods, the one avatar continues unbroken his successions, but the positions he assumes on earth are of less universal spiritual significance, though always his role is one of beneficial help to struggling humanity. The
Yeah, I
ambiguity
mean,
is
I think it relates to the minor avatars. Like
in
it is
between.
also
In
said, yeah, in between there are
Shankara,
people,
Shivaji.
yeah, Shivaji, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, though it is not discussed too much in detail in Baba literature, but there is, some talks of,
Fair enough.
minor
Fair enough.
avatars between the main avatars. 700
And
years
that's
अवतार के
confirmed by
बीच का
Baba.
जो period है उसमें भी there are avatars, but they are like samples, the smaller miniatures of the avatar, as we may call
Correct.
it. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good comparison to this. That makes this statement relevant. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Saints' testimony.
Yeah. While we were in India, Ramju, one of Baba's pioneer disciples, recounted to us an experience of his own, which testifies to preeminence of the position which the Master Baba occupies in spiritual hierarchy. Ramju had been sent by Baba to contact a saint in a certain town in India. When he arrived in the locality, he learned that the man he sought had disappeared just that morning, and no one seemed to know when he would return. But since Ramju had been instructed to see him, he decided to wait around for a while, hoping the saint would soon reappear. For the better part of 2 days, Ramju kept vigil by the side of the main thoroughfare as he watched the passers-by. One dis- disheveled old woman who muttered strangely as she passed and repassed him many times, impressed herself upon his consciousness. She appeared to be entirely oblivious of any external thing or person, and to the uninitiated, who would have seemed mentally distraught. Questioning another passerby, Ramju learned that this woman was highly regarded in the neighborhood as a God realized soul who functioned on a superconscious plane. Suddenly, the old woman stopped in front of Ramju and turned upon him her piercing dark eyes. All traces of preoccupation and abstraction had vanished. What is the name of your master? She demanded. When Ramju replied, Shri Meher Baba, she seemed to project the full force of her tremendous concentration into his innermost being before exclaiming, Oh, he is the emperor of us all. Then, without another word, she turned from Ramju and disappeared into maze of the local bazaar. Ramju later came to know that true
Oh,
to the
Monama,
mysterious
banana
mystery.
போயிடுதோ.
Mamaji, you have to
Mamaji,
mute.
you need to mute. Yeah. Ramju later came to know that true to the mysterious and often indirect ways employed by perfect masters in their work, it was this woman and saint Baba had really intended him to contact outwardly, not the man who had so inconveniently disappeared. Okay. Karthik, can you read now? It's okay with you?
Yeah. Nehaji, are you in a position to read?
I find it a little difficult. I'm on mobile right now.
Yeah. No problem.
Yeah, sitting outside. So,
Jai Baba.
next time for sure.
Sure. No, I'm just checking. I'll continue. Psychic pitfalls. To us in the West, the blind obedience which Baba expects from his disciples may seem strange and perhaps arbitrary. But with deeper knowledge of the pitfalls of the psychic and mental planes of illusion through which the disciple must pass, the master's technique is understood to be a merciful one. The first three planes, actually, I need a pause for 1 minute, please. I need a pause for 1 minute, yeah.
Should I try and read, or because they are recording it also, so there must be a
Yeah,
gap.
yeah.
Apologies,
This
I'm back.
I think you.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
I'm back. Yeah, yeah. So I'll start again without from the beginning so that there's no confusion. Psychic pitfalls. To us in the West, the blind obedience which Baba expects from his disciples may seem strange and perhaps arbitrary. But with deeper knowledge of the pitfalls of the psychic and mental planes of illusion through which the disciple must pass, the master's technique is understood to be a merciful one. The first three planes of expanded consciousness bestow upon the disciple great psychic powers in which the inner senses are awakened and utilized, while the fourth and fifth planes confer upon those who reach these levels supermental powers, such as raising the dead or continuing in the body indefinitely. Unless one is wholly free from all taint of self interest, these planes constitute a dangerous hazard for the spiritual pilgrim. It is because of this danger that the perfect masters take their disciples through their initiatory training blindfolded. On the sixth plane of spiritual intuition or sainthood, the danger of egoistic functioning is past, but there still remains a sense of separation from God. It is therefore still in the domain of illusion. Only on the seventh, the plane of oneness, is the soul freed from all duality and sense of limiting impressions, even though they be of high order. Here, on the peak of the spiritual mountain, the individual soul is merged completely with the infinite. This state of complete God consciousness, which the perfect ones possess, Baba assures us is possible for all human beings, is indeed the birthright of every soul, regardless of color, caste, creed, or nationality. To a questioner, he once replied, Jesus realized God as himself. You have to realize God as yourself. It is, however, so difficult a task that only real heroes of the spirit can achieve it after long and arduous struggle. The nature of God. So again, I think this is a good brief description of the journey through the plains. Again, very correctly described as it is in God's Peak, with the risks of the plains, the powers, and finally the seventh plane. Now let's get to nature of God. In the New Testament, this great adventure of the soul has been simply and graphically described by Jesus in the story of the prodigal son. But since we are living in an age when the intellect demands to know something of the metaphysics behind such parables, Baba gives to us a profound analysis of the nature of God and man. God, who in essence is one and indivisible, appears in the fourfold capacity of Almighty, Creator, Individual, and God man. God, as the Almighty, is one, not in the sense of being half of two, but the one who remains forever one, without a second. He always was infinite, is now infinite, and will always remain infinite. He is the shoreless ocean of truth.
Could you save this? This is beautiful. Not
Yeah,
half of two, but one, the entire paragraph.
yeah, very
It's
nice.
really beautiful, yes.
Yes. I'll read again, actually. It's very beautiful. God, who in essence is one and indivisible, appears in the fourfold capacity of Almighty, Creator, Individual, and God man. God, as the Almighty, is one, not in the sense of being half of two, but the one who remains forever one without a second. He always was infinite, is now infinite, and will always remain infinite. He is the shoreless ocean of truth. He is beyond time and space, cause and effect. He is beyond instinct, intellect, and inspiration. But God in this state is unconscious. The Almighty is not aware that He is the shoreless ocean of truth. His primeval state resembles that of sound sleep. God, as the Creator, is none other than the one indivisible God, but He is conscious in one respect only, that of being the Creator. Consequently, although He is the shoreless ocean of truth, He, as Creator, is not aware of that fact and so is concerned only with the illusory universe, which He creates, preserves, and destroys. As He is conscious only of being the Creator and not being the shoreless ocean, He is limited by cause and effect, time and space. His creative decree is the cause. His creation is the effect. His functioning as creator is limited by the time span of what is called one divine cycle. The range of his activities is bounded by the space limitations of his creation.
Karthik, if I may suggest, it would be a good idea to highlight the,
Yeah, I wanted to do that. Yes.
and Nehaji, are you referring to highlight or आपने जो बोला save?
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
Okay.
I will also
I think
set.
Karthik, okay.
What's that?
It looks like that Baba has given these lines to her or something like, in some meeting, or it's all Baba's writing, or it's from coming from Baba. So
Yes,
profound.
yes. So this, Baba has not used this language for creator, destroyer, yeah, creator, preserver, destroyer. But I think largely, broadly, is the same thing that Baba is saying. Um, Now, let's go to. I think we finished this creator, right? So God as individual now. God as the individual is again the same supreme one, and like the creator, he is both conscious and unconscious. He is unconscious of his real self and does not know that he is the shoreless ocean of truth, but he is conscious of his limited existence of being a drop of individuality in the universal ocean of creatures. Therefore, the individual, like the creator, in spite of being in fact the infinite one, is not infinite, but finite in realization. As such, he is subject to the laws of causation and those of time and space and is restricted by them. His life manifests the effect of his consciousness of being a separate entity. The duration of his incarnate life as individual is equal to that of the divine cycle, or until he becomes fully conscious of his true self, until he realizes that he is the Almighty himself. The manifested individual, who is form plus soul, must give up his separate individuality or life before he can become conscious of being the Almighty. But this giving up of life does not mean ordinary dying. It means the shedding of worldly desires and attachments. Man must become free from all mundane desires, both good and bad, as an imperative preliminary to God realization. This renunciation is tantamount to losing one's individuality or separate life. This is not achieved, however, by the mere loss of physical consciousness. Desires must be transcended consciously while in the body. All that separates the individual from the God, source of his life, must be given up while living. Otherwise, the individual, minus full consciousness, remains as he always has been, conscious only of being one of many individuals. To renounce the desires of the body, of the mind, and of the world, and at the same time to retain consciousness of the unconscious, of the Almighty, is the great goal. A prospect appallingly difficult for the average man to contemplate, all but impossible without the spiritual help of a master to achieve. In ordinary sound sleep, every human creature loses his individuality, but not consciously. When sleep stops, he has to return to conscious life. For the same reason, ordinary physical death is no death at all. It is but a longer sound sleep. When that has spent its cycle, one has to incarnate again. Ordinary death does not liberate the individual from the chain of worldly desires. In order to achieve this, the man must become fully conscious of the unconscious, conscious of the pure, infinite, sexless self, and unconscious of body, mind, and universe. Only death, without giving up the body, can accomplish this. God awakens when, as a conscious individual, he succeeds in penetrating through the maze of creator and creation and comes to know himself as the Almighty. Then does he become conscious of what he innately has always been and will ever remain, the one infinite ocean of truth. For him now, the imaginations of the Creator and his creation no longer exist. He has ceased being finite in consciousness. He knows himself as the Almighty, the one infinite ocean that has always existed, continuously, without any change or division, and will remain so forever. Such a one, the God man, knows that although he was present in consciousness in stones, minerals, vegetables, trees, birds, beasts, and human beings, he had, through all these evolutionary forms, remained unceasingly and without impairment that which he is now, the one and only reality. The God man then is none else but the same Almighty One, plus knowledge and consciousness. He is knowledge, knower, and the known. He is love, lover, and the beloved. The God man knows that he is in every individual and that every individual is in him. He experiences all this while the unawakened individual does not. Both are in the same ocean of truth, yet with what a difference. The God man knows that he is the all in all, the totality of existence, that he always was and will ever remain the same one ocean of truth. The unenlightened, sorry, the unenlightened individual, though he is in fact the same all inclusive one, does not know whence he came nor whither he is headed. It is the one supreme self who plays the different roles of Almighty, Creator, individual, and God man. In the state of the Almighty, the supreme self is one, indivisible, and infinite, unconsciously possessing and sustaining infinite powers, eternal existence, unfathomable bliss, and universal complete knowledge, though without being becoming aware of them. As creator, he possesses the same unconscious attributes, but he becomes aware of being the creator and experiences himself as creating, preserving, and destroying creation. As individual, he still possesses all these potentialities, but he limits himself to earthly desires and thus experiences himself as finite, as circumscribed by his physical body. Only as God man does he experience and realize all of his infinite and limitless capacities in full consciousness. Before the individual can lose his limited personality and become God man, it is an absolute essential that he realize love divine. Love, divine love, for the indivisible, infinite, supreme self, who is beyond the realm of thought and reason. Inasmuch as the supreme self is beyond all man comprehended things, including the intellect cannot find him. Only divine love, free from the dross of illusion and the drag of desires, can realize him. Okay, I think we'll stop here then. Yeah, we'll
Yes,
stop
the
here.
whole paragraph, whole
It's very
chapter
good.
as such is a real journey explained.
And in brief and I mean in completely in line with what Baba says broadly. So let me.
Looks like Baba's, dictation or something. It's so beautiful.
Yes, 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 indeed. So any thoughts, any points that came up in your mind?
Yeah, the only point that comes in the Western mind in those times, living in a distant, following a master in a distant country where there was no internet, there was no, telephones or videos, and get deep diving into what the master is saying and putting them into her words in a book. That itself is kind of mesmerizes me.
Extraordinary. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
It's not easy if you imagine ourselves in those days.
Indeed, indeed. Very, very interesting. But again, I think these are not ordinary souls. These souls that he picked up at back in those days were all special souls. Right. So
No
very,
doubt.
yes. Great. So with that, we can wrap up. I will stop recording now in a minute.